I walked into my meeting the other night, and a person that I knew fairly well walked up to me and she said, "I hate coming to meetings when I have to evaluate you." And I thought to myself, well, I hate coming to meetings when you're there. But she continued, "I never know what to say. You're a good speaker. I always get really interested in what you have to say. And when it's all over, I go, oh yeah, we're supposed to be evaluating." And I thought to myself, well, I have a couple of choices here. I can choose to dumb down my speeches. I can make obvious mistakes so that the evaluators have something to talk about. Or I can make you listen harder. I can make you think more. I can force you to pay attention. And that's what I decided to do. And that's what I wanted to share with you. Adrian was talking about listening. Evaluating is listening. Okay, I'm listening. What am I listening for? On your handout, there's two sides. Let's start with the one side that talks about what to evaluate, how to evaluate. You've seen these ideas before. You know them. You sometimes have to be reminded about them. Because I know I'm supposed to say something about the title. But I didn't pay attention and they didn't send it to the Toastmaster in time and it didn't get on the agenda and I don't remember what it was. So that's what I say in my evaluation. I didn't understand the title. I personally, Nancy Trobrower thinks that titles are the place that you use to hang your speech. If you don't know what your title is, if you don't know what you're talking about, why are you up there talking? And yes, there are lots of times that I don't think about my title till the last minute because I'm writing my speech at the last minute. And I've written 12 pages. And it isn't until I force myself to title it that I can start throwing page number 3 away and story number 6 and all of those things. And keep relating what I want to say to my title. What is that project in the CC manual? Get to the point. What was my point? That's my title. So while it's something that most people throw away, as advanced Toastmasters, I want you to start thinking about your titles. Then I want you to start thinking about your introductions. How many times does it take you your first 3 minutes to get into the meat of what you wanted to say, get everybody in the right frame of mind? Now, if you'd given that information to the person that was introducing you, your Toastmaster, you could have started right in with the meat of your talk. Right in there with that hook. Right in there with that crazy idea that you want to share with these people. There we go. There's your speech opening. Gestures, stories, vocal variety. What is the content? These are all things that we know. It's in your CC manual. Did you read that article in Toastmaster magazine about a woman who is going to be competing for world champion of public speaking? The first thing she did, well, she wrote her speech. And then did it in front of her club, got some feedback, and then she went back to her CC manual and said, number 1, is it organized? Number 2, what's my point of view? Number 3, what are my gestures? Are they big enough for the room I'm going to be in? Is it the same gesture over and over? Is it a balloon popping in the background to give it emphasis? Exactly. She went through them step by step. Each one of those CC manual speeches. Is my speech meeting these goals for me and for my audience? evaluate. Now, if it's an icebreaker speech, we know how to evaluate that. We want to be kind. We want to point out the good things that the person did. We want to kind of nudge them forward to embrace something that we think that they're ready to do. Is it the comedian in the group? Then maybe he's ready to start talking about vocal variety before that speech that says vocal variety. Or maybe he's got skills in vocal variety, and you want to be sure that he continues to use those. What do I do when it's an advanced speaker? How do I evaluate that speech? First of all, consider that they're going to do that speech again. Adrian doesn't come to 6,000 Toastmasters meetings and do a brand new speech every time. It's wonderful, it's inspirational, it's done in a way that makes us think that it's new every time, but we know full well he's been working on this speech. And this is not the first time he gave it. He comes up with new examples, he comes up with new material, he brings things in that he's seen and heard in other places, but it's not a new speech. So let's assume that he's going to do it again. What kind of information could we give Adrian about making the speech work better the next time? Could it have been funnier? Could he have used a different kind of gesture? I love his spelling. That's the way I spell. It made perfect sense to me until he pointed out that it didn't start with a K. Oh, yeah, it's right. Who knew? Is this person trying to teach us something, or is the person working toward one of those motivational speeches, inspirational speeches? I want to be world champion of public speaking. Because you're going to evaluate things entirely differently depending upon what they're doing. The wording, if I want to be world champion of public speaking, I need to really concentrate, you as an evaluator need to really concentrate on how he's saying things. Is he getting his idea across in as few words as possible? Is he giving you really good visual images? If I'm educating someone, what do my handouts look like? Am I using the materials that I've posted on the board? Am I keeping you awake? And not just am I jumping up and down and yelling so that you'll stay awake, but am I saying something that keeps you involved? Am I making a joke at just the right point that you were starting to start thinking about the grocery list or what you have to do next today? That being said, I hate people who talk at me. I want to do it myself, with your guidance. So, I'm going to ask you to turn your page over and put you all to work. We are going to be evaluating the next speaker. This is an evaluation sheet that we use in our advanced club, which is an advanced club in District 9, because Area B4 is indeed in District 9. I don't know where you guys got the idea that we weren't, but we are. And we use this, and we call it a 4-part evaluation. And you're looking at it, and just like the Adrian's spelling, there's only 3 parts here. So this lady gets crazy and doesn't know what she's talking about, which my children will tell you is absolutely true. Part 4 of this evaluation is the manual. And so I'm going to ask one of you to be thinking whether you want to be the manual evaluator. The manual evaluator, it's obvious. It's written here. They ask you questions. You write down the answers and give comments. So one of these 4 parts is the manual. Adrian was talking about his club with the speakers that don't see, and he had a listener in the corner. That's evaluator number 1, verbal. Imagine you're listening to this speech on the radio. You're not seeing what the person is doing. You're just hearing what they're saying. Is the emotion in their voice? Is the pacing such that it leads you right to the edge and then gives you that punchline at the right time? The next evaluator is the visual evaluator. I came from a performing arts background. I like to be the visual evaluator. I like to say something about or pay attention to what you're doing. There are a lot of people, especially beginning speakers, that stand there and hold on to the lectern. And one of my beginning speakers, he not only was hanging onto that lectern for dear life, but when he ever let it go, he did this thing with his hand, with his ring on his finger. It was driving me bananas. Bang, 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 bang. Didn't he hear that? That is not the way I presented it to him at the end of the meeting, but I did mention to him that was a nervous habit, and it was very distracting as an audience member, even though he personally didn't hear it. The visual evaluator talks about watching TV with the mute on. My husband and I play that game all the time. What's that commercial about? With the mute off, I play that game. When it's all over, what was that commercial about? See what they're doing. Are they, lots of times when you're watching them without the sound, you find that they're using the same gestures over and over. They're saying 3 words and they're pacing to this side of the room. And then they're saying 3 words and then they're pacing to that side of the room. And today I'm pacing just because it's freezing in here.
And I'm the camera person, too.
Yeah, and because I got a camera person and she has to follow me around. Content. That's the one, if you want to be world champion of the world, that's the one that's going to get them every time. And if you listen to their speeches, the guy with the best content, the most interesting way of saying things is the guy that wins. And I'm using guy in a very generic way. The person. So imagine you're reading the script on paper. That one, for people who are organized, that one is fabulous. I had someone that I was mentoring, and he wrote every single word he was going to say. And he would email it to me and say, what do you think? And I said, well, first of all, it's now 20 minutes long, and you've got 4 to 6. So what are we going to say for speech number 3, 4, and 5? So, which pieces of it are relating to my title, that thing that I'm hanging my speech on? I want you to think about which of these you feel comfortable doing, and I want you to hold up your hand if you want to be a verbal evaluator for Dan's speech. Right now, today. And if you're not a verbal, then you're going to be something else. Everybody's going to be an evaluator. So we have 1 verbal, we have a 2nd verbal. Who wants to be a visual evaluator? 2? 3? Okay, we got it. Okay, and who's a content person? Who thinks about what they're going to say?
I'll do it because I know it's